Hong Kong funeral home story. I have a friend who works in the funeral business, and he often gets requests from families when handling deceased women. They'll ask, "My wife, sister, or aunt was really into her appearance. Can you arrange for a makeup artist to give her a beautiful look?" It usually seems like a simple request, and there's usually no problem. One day, he had a funeral for a woman who had committed suicide, presumably by overdosing on sleeping pills. She wasn't very old, in her late 20s to early 30s, and her family stressed how much she cared about her appearance. They wanted a female makeup artist to work on her to make her look beautiful for her final journey. The family provided some makeup products that the deceased used in her lifetime, hoping the makeup artist could make her look more beautiful for her final resting place. The day before the funeral, my friend was supposed to arrange for a female makeup artist for her, but due to his busy schedule, which involved multiple funeral things that day, he didn't have time to find one. So he assigned some technicians from the funeral home to do the makeup. They weren't professional makeup artists, but they handled makeup for many bodies. However, some women prefer a female makeup artist, especially for specific things like hair dyeing. On the day of the funeral, my friend and a technician started their work. They began by changing the deceased woman's clothes and then started the makeup process. While the technician was working on her eyebrows, the woman's eyelids seemed to open slightly. Though the technician was a bit frightened, he continued working on her makeup. He applied a solution to close her eyelids properly, but suddenly he heard a sigh from behind, which startled him again. However, in their line of work, there's an unspoken rule. Even if you hear something, you don't question if others heard it too. It's an understanding within the funeral business. After a while, the technician finished his work and left, leaving my friend to complete the remaining tasks in the viewing room. Later, when my friend was done, he walked to the chapel around 2 p.m. There were no family members or friends present at that time. As he entered, he noticed a woman sitting in the chapel. Her head bowed, so he couldn't see her face. He quickly assumed it could be the deceased woman. Despite promising the family a female makeup artist, due to being occupied, he hadn't been able to arrange one. Possibly feeling apprehensive about encountering the woman, he immediately closed his eyes and, in his mind, apologized. "If you're the deceased woman, I'm sorry. Tomorrow, before you depart for the burial, I'll arrange for a professional female makeup artist to give you the desired look." After this brief internal conversation, he opened his eyes, but the woman had vanished. My friend shared that this was his first time encountering a spirit before him. Since that incident, he's never again committed to a task requested by the deceased's family, but left incomplete. Taiwan funeral home story. Funeral homes are the places where we bid farewell to the departed souls, so it's not unusual for some spirits to linger. I believe it's a normal part of life: birth, aging, sickness, and death. The following story is narrated in the first person. I started learning the huqin in the 3rd grade of elementary school, so I had a decent foundation. Huqin is a Chinese bowed string instrument. During the breaks of my college studies, senior classmates would invite me to work. The workplace? A funeral home. During memorial services held in the chapel, we would be on the side, responsible for playing musical pieces. When the deceased was moved from the cold storage to the chapel, and later when the coffin was taken to the crematorium, we would be right there. The first time I encountered this, it was quite frightening. Winter mornings were slow to brighten, and sometimes in the early hours, the funeral home was deserted. Especially when the weather was gloomy, it added to the cold and mournful atmosphere, making it quite eerie. Once, during the procession, because the team leading in front was walking slowly, the cart carrying the body, pushed from behind, accidentally bumped into my backside. The master handling the cart scolded me, and I was so scared that I didn't dare look back. During home rituals or public ceremonies, listening to the MC narrate the life stories of the deceased and the words of remembrance from the family always made me feel uneasy. Several times I couldn't hold back tears. Adapting to this working environment required considerable effort, but I started thinking of it as a form of merit, escorting the departed on their final journey. Moreover, the pay was good, the hours were short, and I was doing something I was familiar with. However, this job left me puzzled. Regardless of the duration, every time I finished work, I would take a stroll before going home. Mainly because I heard people say that one should do this after going to a funeral home. However, whenever I got home, I would immediately fall into a deep sleep until the afternoon. I usually slept at 9 p.m. and got a full 7 or 8 hours of sleep, yet still felt tired. My family didn't follow any specific religious beliefs, so I did things based on what others suggested. Sometimes the mourning family would place purified water and paper charms at the chapel entrance. Senior colleagues mentioned that it could bring protection and peace. I would follow suit, purify myself with the water, and take a few charms. This part-time job accompanied me through my student years until I entered the workforce at a technology company. Due to good relations with the funeral directors, I continued to help out on holidays when they needed a musician. However, as a resident of Keelung, I primarily worked at the Keelung Funeral Home and secondarily in Taipei. Unexpectedly, strange occurrences began happening as I continued with this job. I said, "What should I do now? Should I throw it away?" At that very moment, the car window beside me slowly opened automatically. I was startled and let out a scream. The person in the back seat was surprised by the descending window, and the one in the front seat was scared by my scream. Everyone asked what happened. I said, "The car window went down on its own. I didn't touch anything." Ah Ming, who was driving, also said, "I didn't touch it either." The air froze for a few seconds, and no one spoke. After that, Dabai said, "I'll contact my mom. She volunteers at a temple in Songshan and helps with rituals on weekends. I'll ask her what to do." Later, Dabai made a call and told me, "Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, go to my mom's temple. She'll meet you there." From then on, the entire car ride was silent. They silently drove me back home. Early Sunday morning, on the way to the temple, I felt extremely lethargic and unenergetic. I was in a gloomy mood and didn't want to talk. There was an indescribable unpleasant feeling and, strictly speaking, a somewhat fearful sensation. When I met Dabai and his mom in the parking lot, she led me into the temple. Stepping into the main hall, she asked me to kneel in front of the goddess. At that moment, I began to feel dizzy, and cold sweat streamed down my face, the kind that needed tissue to wipe off. Then, Dabai's mom started the ritual. I still remember her pressing my head with one hand, continuously taking forceful steps, and waving the other hand while reciting words without stopping. I only knew that I couldn't kneel any longer. My head hurt badly, and I was on the verge of passing out. Then I started to feel like crying, feeling very wronged and sad. But in the next moment, I suddenly felt my body becoming loose and the bitter feeling disappeared. It was like completing a 10-kilometer run and being given a bottle of ice-cold water, a refreshing sensation. I looked up at Dabai's mom and she gently said, "It's okay now." The deities helped resolve it. They both left. But remember to go home early during this period and don't go out at night. Your energy field is weak now. Still in shock, I didn't ask much and obediently went home. On Monday at work, around the same time in the evening, my colleague's boyfriend came to pick her up. Seeing me, he changed from his previous stern attitude back to his usual playful demeanor. He came to my office door, smiled, and said, "Hey, you went, huh?" I asked, "How did you know?" He said, "Of course they're gone now. Do you know how disgusting it was? One burnt, the other chopped up." both sticking close to you. Didn't you find it smelly? I was completely stunned. I wished he hadn't told me. So, it wasn't my imagination. There was indeed a smell, and it turned out to be two ghosts, one on each side of my face. Later, my colleague's boyfriend explained, "It followed you from the funeral home. Not the one you helped at, but the one in Keelung. It's the boss in the mountains over there. You encountered it as you passed by. You better not go there again." I said, "Don't scare me." At lunch, Dabai called me and, with concern, mentioned that his mom told him they had helped remove two not-so-good-looking souls the previous day, precisely because I worked at the funeral home and they followed me. And it had been for quite some time. You all didn't know each other for quite a while. Why would they say the same thing? My colleague's boyfriend chuckled and said, "Well, now that everything is fine, I'm off." After that incident, my dad strictly forbade me from working at the funeral home. As a part-time worker with multiple jobs, I later switched to teaching the violin to kids in a music school on weekends, feeling much safer. End of the story. There might still be many curious people wondering if it was because I carried the talisman without disposing of it that I attracted ghosts. In my opinion, having the talisman on oneself won't have any impact. It won't attract ghosts. Instead, it's because I didn't dispose of it. Similar to a doctor prescribing medicine that you don't take. Of course, it won't be effective. So, in the beginning, when the person felt tired and wanted to sleep during the summer and winter vacations, not getting enough rest, we can speculate that the ghost might have already started following them. Over time, as more and stronger ghosts followed, the smell started to emerge, and eventually, negative thoughts arose, wanting to take people to the netherworld. Therefore, if you obtain a talisman from a funeral home, always remember to dispose of it properly. Besides that, you can also do the following. Many people know about plucking 7 leaves from specific trees. Be cautious though. Not all leaves work. Useful ones include banyan leaves, mugwort, hibiscus, and artemisia. Indica, put the leaves in your pocket and throw them away when leaving. If you don't have leaves, you can use salt in a red envelope. This method is equally effective. Some also suggest putting $20 in the red envelope. Discard it in the trash when leaving. Spend the $20 on a drink, and it will work too. Regardless of the method, I just want to emphasize that these are supplementary. The most crucial thing is to have positive thoughts and possess positive energy. With that, supernatural beings won't want to come near you. Thank you guys for watching this video, and be sure to look out for the next Asian horror story. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and ring the notification bell for future uploads.